Hello. Happy CircuitPython Day. So this is a project build I'm doing. It's a message board that uses these 16 by 32 panels. I'm going to be using 4 of them, and also the MatrixPortal S3 here. And so this is I had actually done a project that was similar to this. It had used some of those pink pixel purses from a few years ago. And it had 6 of those. They were about the same size as this, and I had it powered by a Raspberry Pi. And I wanted to redo it with CircuitPython, so I kind of rewrote all the code so it's all supported with that. So I'm going to go ahead and start with building the message board here for the first part of the stream, and then I'm going to kind of go over the code and show that here. So I'm going to start by laying 4 of these out. And let's start with laying these out so that the text on this is upside down and the input is all the way to the right here. So then I have these kind of connector things here, and I just make sure this part comes up. And I'm going to go ahead and use just these nylon screws here. Okay, so there's going to be 6 of these connectors and 12 screws. So this will take just a bit here to go ahead and attach all of these. Screw. I have a couple different, well, 3 different sizes of screws here. I have these ones that I'm attaching. They're 10 millimeters long. I have a couple that are 15 or 16, I'm not sure. And then I have some M2.5 ones for attaching the board. So I'm going to go ahead and separate all those. Now, one of the things about the timing on creating this message board was because the new MatrixPortal S3 came out, and it had enough memory and processing speed to be able to handle it really well. And so once that came out, I immediately was like, okay, let's go ahead and make a project. Now on this last one, I'm only going to attach 1 screw on each of these connectors because the mount for the MatrixPortal S3 will be using some longer screws and going in through the same holes. And I'll show you that when we get to that step. And David Glode said the alpha blending wouldn't work on the old MatrixPortal. That's correct. It just, well, bitmaptools wasn't available for it, but I don't think it would have been had enough processing speed or memory for it to work. Oh yeah, the arrows. Yeah, that does definitely help. The ones on these particular panels you can't really see very well, but it does say input next to one side and output next to the other. So that definitely helps. If you're gonna stack them on top, I'm actually not sure what direction they go. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna start doing is attaching these little side panels on. Those just have a little bit of a dovetail, so they just slide right into the connectors here. And then we have one special one with the for the so you can press the buttons or access the USB port, and that one is going to connect right here. There. Okay. Now here's the mounting bracket for the matrix portal. Just a little square thing to help with the orientation. And then it only attaches with 2 screws. Okay. Yeah, this just attaches here. These have these little inserts, so they just go right into the screw holes there. And I use the longer screws for those. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and tighten up all the screws along here. Otherwise it flexes a little bit. It might be better with some metal screws, but I went with the nylon ones because I knew that was available in the Adafruit store. Okay. Now I have these side panels here. I'm going to go ahead and attach one on this side. This part, I'm just going to slide all the panels to the right, and that lines up much better with the buttons and everything. But for this next part, I have this LED acrylic here. It's actually left over from my previous panel. Yeah, I had gotten an extra one, and I cut this down. I actually cut this one a little bit on the short side, but it should work on this project anyways. And just go ahead and insert it in here with the matte side facing up. It's a flat surface. It's catching on that. Okay, there we go. And let's get the last panel right on. There we go. Oh, the all the plastic parts here are 3D printed. I am writing a guide, and I will be having that all those included in the guide. As for the LED acrylic, there are some sold in the Adafruit store. They are this size here, like 12 by 6 inches, and they could be cut down, and you could put 3 or 4 of them in there, and that should work. Okay. So here's what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and plug in a USB cable. I already have it programmed, so just going to get going, but I'll go over the code here in just a bit. Let's see. USB cable's not working. Oh, I didn't do any of my wiring. That's why. That makes sense. Okay. So let's go ahead and hook all that up. Thanks, DJ Devin. Let's see. On the diffuser, but you were asking like what size, screw size, and pitch for the mounting holes. I don't have any like mounting hole. Or you mean on the back of the panel? Those are M3, and I think they're like 8 or 10 millimeters deep. I can't remember. Okay. Now for attaching these wires, I like to kind of take the two of these forks and then put them so they end up kind of, here, I'll show you closer, so that they end up more like that where they're touching. And that way they get good contact, surface contact. Let's see. This is the positive. Yeah, just standard M3 sizes. Okay. So we'll just plug in these to each of the panels. Okay, and then one of the things that I did on this design is I made it so you could get all this wiring kind of tied down with just some zip ties. They just insert right in one of these holes and poke up right out the other side. And it makes it a lot easier to secure everything. I will cover the power on here. Yeah, I tested it and it powers on a computer. It's about the same power requirements as a 64 by 32 panel because it's the same number. They're slightly larger, but I think that's more about the pitch spacing on that. So it had no problem powering off the USB, but I think if you did all white, it would have some power issues based on like my experience with the MatrixPortal M4. But for running this, if you don't want it connected to a computer, there are some adapters. I'll show you. So you can just use like an external power adapter like this. And we do have this power adapter that goes from the 2.1 millimeter to the USB-C. So that can plug right into the top of that. So let's see. Now, one thing I can do to neaten this up a little bit is start by creating some little loops here. And I'll take some longer zip ties here and feed them through here. And then just kind of tuck this up here. Feed it through this one. And then I'll just kind of hold everything in place there. Okay, now I'm going to go and clip all these off. And if you have some, it's a little sticking up around here, you can use the mount to secure it. Okay, let's go ahead and plug that in. Okay, and there it goes. And that's just running off of, I think it's 900 milliamps that comes out of the USB-C. Okay, so I'm going to go over the code here. And let me just add my screen here and refresh this. Okay. Got my cup with Blink on it for CircuitPython. See. Yeah, I think for, like I said, if it's like all white or whatever, then I think it would require the external power. And I may run into something where it does that and it'll kind of brown out and reset is what will happen. Let's see. Okay. So on the code here, this is just a little demo that runs it. Oops. Too big for my screen. Okay. There we go. Oh yeah, I originally was gonna go ahead and try and do some complicated thing where I split off the power and I powered the matrix portal with half of it, and then I powered the LEDs with part of it, and it was just getting very complicated. And when I realized it was able to power through here, I just wanted to kind of keep the circuit somewhat simple, so you didn't have to buy like 15 different adapters or whatever. Anyway, so on here, I'm actually importing the matrix part from the MatrixPortal library to start with, and I just initialize it. I found a bit depth of 5 actually looks pretty good on here. And then I have a message board library, and I'll go over that in just a little bit, but that was a library written specifically for this guide. So the message board is kind of like the overall library that controls things. The font pool library, it was just basically a way of kind of storing or loading a font in there and then being able to retrieve it without having to have duplicates of the same fonts. And then the message is just kind of like you could do different messages scrolling across here and different animations. So I just create I'm loading the font or the Arial font into the font pool. And then when I create a message, I say that's the font I'm going to use. I have a mask color for the image. I found the mixing the different bit depths of the images just doesn't work very well. So I would suggest going with keeping it consistent, like 24-bit seems to work really well. You can set the opacity in the message. And this one I'm adding the masked star bitmap, and that already has the same mask color in there. And I'm saying hello world, and then I just tell it to scroll in from the right and then out to the left, and it sleeps for 1 second and then out to the left. I'm going to go ahead and show a different one here. So let's just rename this to code 2 for now because I can't think of a better name. I'll rename this to code. So this one has a lot more messages here and examples. So I'm having it so it changes the message in the middle of it. That way you can kind of do some things like going out to the internet and getting the time. It might have just browned out there. So I can actually, yeah, I think it browned out. So probably one of these, it was just showing too many graphics or something. Yeah, I'm going to actually stop the it from running right now because then I can show you the code without having it interfere. Let's see. Okay, so you can do a bunch of different animations. So a lot of it involves loading. You can load different messages. So you can change the text in there. So you go to the internet, get some kind of a value, and then like display it. So it just kind of goes in the loop here. And then there's different animations. I'll go over those in more detail here. Let's see. So I have the message board here. And then what I did is I took the different animations and I put them into these different categories. I just put them into 4 different categories. So the scroll animation, which you've seen, starting up again. The scroll animation, which you've seen, is you can scroll. Well, you can scroll from to in a direction, which allows you to actually do some diagonal scrolling if you wanted to. But all of these functions just use that same one, and so you can go out to the left, in from the left, in from the right, out to the right, up, down, out to the top and bottom, and into the in from the top and bottom. So basically, the in or out in 4 different directions. And then you have a loop one, which is similar to the scrolling one, but it will actually appear to loop from one side of the screen to the other, and it'll go in 4 different directions on that one. You have a split one, which will it can split out, in, and then out, up, or in vertically. So that's 4 different animations there. And then the static one is just kind of like the miscellaneous one. So it'll keep the text in place, but you can show it, hide it, you can cause it to blink, you can cause it to flash, which is more of a fade in and fade out a certain number of times. And then there's fade in and fade out. Now I'm going to go ahead and plug this in using that adapter I was showing you. And then I can show you the little demo I have on here. Oops. There we go. Okay, so that's the scrolling in, changing the message, and then scrolling it out. And then I had to do the join in, and that's the loop one there. So you can see how it kind of goes in from the side of the screen. I had it flashing there, splitting out, and it was just fading in and then fading out, scrolling up, down. Some more scrolling on there, but it's also changing backgrounds, and so it's showing you that, and then it kind of starts over again. Let's see. Go ahead and plug that in. So I'll show you that code of that demo that I just showed you. Okay. Okay, so basically I start off by adding any of the fonts I need into the font pool. And let's see. And then I start by creating the first message. Actually, I didn't even use this one, so I should remove that from the demo. So I'm just have message 1. I'm just reading it. I'm not even putting any content in that one because I do it down below. Message 2. Looks like I have some print stuff in there for debugging. Okay. I'm setting it to the comic font and then putting a mask color in there, and I'm adding the masked Blinka image and just showing CircuitPython. In message 3, I have it set to a what was that? Oh yeah, and you can do some offsets on there as well. So I had some spacing between the image and the text that way. Message 3 uses the Deja Vu font, and it's just saying CircuitPython.com. And the 4th one is just saying bioelectronics and showing it in white color there. So in the main loop here, I go and I start by adding all the stuff I need to into message 1 because I know it's going to change on each iteration of the loop. And I just have it. Oh, I should show you the animate function, which is kind of cool. So I have it scrolling in from the left, clearing the message, which basically clears all the contents from the buffer of the message. And then you're starting with a clean slate, and then you just add your text and you tell it to animate. Let's see. This one is just basically from the static animations and saying to go to show it, scroll out to the right. I'm clearing the message again here and then adding or more effects like with a couple spaces and then doing those animations. I was trying to make it as easy as possible to use Python to be able to control the animation so that it's really easy to create these. And then stuff like the flash one, where you can do extra parameters. I'm telling it to flash 3 times. It's basically more of the same there that I kind of went over already. So let's go and show you the animate function, which is in the message board class. So it's in here. Okay. So the animate function is pretty cool because what it does is it'll actually automatically load the correct class so that it doesn't like have to load everything all at once. Let's start by loading it finds what the name of the folder is, which in this case is message board. And then it does messageboard.animations dot, and then the name of the file. The file needs to match the class name, but it does the lower name thing. And then it kind of just dives down a little deeper and deeper until it gets the animation class. And then it can get the function name that you specify. And then it'll add any of the keyword arguments, and it'll just call it that way. So it kind of does dynamic loading and calling the function. That makes it really easy to add animations because you could add another category of animations if you wanted to, and then just create all those. So I had actually ported those from the code I'd written for the Raspberry Pi powered one, and this is how I would have actually preferred it for when I wrote that code, and so I'm really happy with how this ended up. So this just does basic things like setting the background in there, and then the draw function is all in here, and it actually makes use of the bitmap tools, and it uses the blit function a lot, which is the function in order to really quickly draw a bitmap. And it makes use of the alpha blend at the end to kind of blend the message with the background there. And I think, let me show you the message class. Actually, I'll show you some of these other ones. The double buffer one's actually pretty cool. And it seems like every time I select another file, it resets. I don't know if that's a bug in here. Okay. The double buffer, all that does is it sets up a couple groups, a couple bitmaps, and then it sets up a couple tile grids in those groups. And when it swaps buffers, all it does is it will basically set the current group to the correct one and just show that group. And it works really well with CircuitPython. It made everything a lot smoother. So this is a pretty basic class, and it allowed me to read or set the shader if I wanted to, or read which is the active buffer, and that seemed to be everything I needed from that. And then the font pool here is just a really 20-line one. I kind of described that already. And the message class is one of the things it does is it'll kind of enlarge the buffer dynamically as you add content to it. And that way it can kind of stick with just the smallest amount. And the buffer just consists of a display IO bitmap that's at the maximum size. And it just will recalculate and blit the existing content onto the new bitmap and then set that as the active one. So the only things that it has on here is adding text, adding an image, and clearing. And then you can read some of the different properties, like the mask color and the blend mode and stuff. And I think that about covers all the code. Did anybody have any questions in particular? You can add them to the Discord chat. Oh, yeah. Here, let's see. Oh, is my audio low? I just noticed a comment on the StreamYard that said my audio is low. I can turn it up a little. Is that any better? Oh, okay, good. Let's see here. See if any comments I might have missed. Okay. Oh. Okay, well, I'm good. I'm glad the audio is good. I think I just turned it up just a little bit in OBS. I what pitch size is the matrix? This is P6 for the pitch, which means they're 6 millimeters apart. And yeah, I got this larger piece from Tap Plastics. At the time I got it, I was living near Portland, and I just drove there. But they don't have any where I'm at now. I think they only have them in California and Oregon, and maybe Washington. And they do ship, I believe. Let's see. Let's see. Oh yeah, the MatrixPortal S3 has the extra address bin. Yes. One of the things I did when it was being developed was I went and tested it on all of the projects for the Learn guides, and most of them worked fine, including some that needed the 64 by 64. So yeah, there's like the only thing I found that the MatrixPortal S3 didn't do was the PWM audio, and it just has I2S audio, which is actually a really good quality. So it was good. And yeah, it does require soldering a block between the two contacts. Let's see, any other questions? I think I answered everything. If not, then I think I have finished. And I will be putting out a guide here probably in the next week or so that kind of goes over the whole build and everything. So that should be that's why I'm wanting to know some of the questions, because I can include that information in the guide. Oh, thank you. Yes, yeah. I really like how this ended up. I wanted to use the strength of the frames that came with these LED panels, so it really makes use of that. It's a lot less printing than my previous one, which was one of my goals in redesigning this. I think that's it. So happy CircuitPython Day, and thank you for joining me. And let's see, let me just remove that. Okay, there, now you can see me. So happy CircuitPython Day. We have, let's see, I'm not sure who we have coming up next. I think it was a CircuitPython Day chat, if I recall. And that starts in about 15 minutes. So anyway, thanks for joining me.